We'll do a review in Likkutei Sichos in Chelek Chavav in volume 26. This is the first Sicha for the Parshas Tisa. We'll study the Sicha Lilu Nishmas B'neinu Ahuveinu, our dear son Levi Yitzchak, a dedicated shliach of the Rebbe, who was taken at the young age of 43 years old. And this learning should be to benefit of his neshama. In this Sikha, the Rebbe explains the idea that our sages tell us that the Machzis HaShekel, we discuss about the Yidden giving a Machzis HaShekel as an atonement in the portion of Kisisa, Koifer Nafshe, how could it be? The Gemara asks that it's a Machzis HaShekel can atone for the soul, and the Rebbe, the answer that Eibishter gave to Moshe by showing him a coin made out of fire. And the Rebbe explains the whole thing. What does it mean of fire? Why specifically over here? The Rebbe go through all the details. The Rebbe will explain that Machzis HaShekel has a special quality more than all the mitzvahs, that even the physical Machzis HaShekel that we give has fire in it, and that makes it unique, as the Rebbe will explain. We'll go step by step. Aleph, if Pasik Zayitnu Goimer, Pasik says, this thou shall give, which is by Mtzivui for Machzis HaShekel, which is by the command of the Machzis HaShekel. The Torah says, this they shall give. So this is an unusual language. The language of Zeh means like you see, this give, as if he's shown this. And the question is, what is the meaning of Zeh? So Zogn Chazal, so our sages of blessed memory say that it's Kimin Matbeya Shel Eish Hoitza HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the Eibishter took a kind of a coin made out of fire that Hashem took out from under the Kisei HaKoved, Veher Ohu LeMoshe, he showed Moshe a coin of fire. V'omar Loi, and he said to Moshe, Zeh Yitnu, this is this give, which means Kazeh Yitnu, like this is like what you should give. So what you should give is basically a coin of fire. So what's the conversation over here? What's the explanation that we need over here? What's the problems over here? What is the Schwerigkeit, the Machzis HaShekel? What is the difficulty in the half a shekel? Bis as der Eibishter soll der Far darfen beweisen zu Moshe Rabbeinu, to the extent that the Shem needs to show to Moshe Rabbeinu ad matbeya shalish, a coin of fire. So it seems like needed somehow to explain something to them. He said, unusual to say, Zeh Yitnu, give him a coin of fire. What was the problem? Is Tosfos Mevayer, Tosfos explained as Toma Moshe, what Moshe was surprised. What was the issue here? Al Hadover. On this matter, the Eibishter says, give a Machzis HaShekel to atone for yourself. So, Ma Yuchal Odom Litin Koifer Nafshe. What is it that a person can give to atone for his soul? Here we're saying that this is a half a shekel that the person is giving. What is this half a shekel that he's giving? What is it accomplishing? It brings about atonement for the soul. So Moshe Rabbeinu was surprised, and that's why Hashem shows him, because he was surprised. What is it that a person can give to atone for his soul? That's what Tosfos explains. That's why the Eibishter showed him at Matbeya Shalish. But it does further tabir. But this Tosfos explanation that Moshe Rabbeinu was troubled or didn't understand how could it atone requires explanation. This is not the only thing that atones for. And why would Moshe be surprised? Was is given the Tmiu Pele by Moshe Rabbeinu? What was the surprise and the wonder by Moshe Rabbeinu was the Nesina for Machzis HaShekel can sein Koifer Nafshe, that this giving of a half a shekel can be atonement for the soul. Why would that be something? Jeder posheter stot magid. Every simple uh, preacher of the city, meaning every ordinary preacher, will explain it to you. And this regular preacher is not at all at the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. He knows the answer. He doesn't have a question. It's not a problem for him. Why would Moshe have a problem? Every single simple city preacher, whose intellect is no comparison at all to the intellect of Moshe Rabbeinu. The nivchar mikol min ha'odom asher hesig yoser chulu. The Rebbe quotes over here from the Pirush HaMishnayis, the Rambam, that Moshe Rabbeinu was the chosen of all human species who understood, and he's the ultimate wholesomeness in intellect. So they explain it very simple. Is as masbir gorbe pashtus. So even this simple Magid, who has no comparison to Moshe Rabbeinu's intellect and Moshe Rabbeinu's tachlis hashleimus and seichel, his ultimate wholesomeness in intellect, is as masbir gorbe pashtus. Explains it very simple. When a yid is mekayim a mitzvah, that when a yid fulfills a mitzvah, kommt him der faraschar, he deserves for doing the mitzvah a reward. And sometimes you get a very big reward. As the Mishnah, the Pasuk says, alle brachos was werden dort ausgerechnet. The Torah says in Parshas Bechukoisa, if you follow my statutes, I'll give the rain in time, and all the other blessings that are enumerated over there. So we see that for doing a mitzvah, you get tremendous reward. Well, so similarly is in our case, that al schar for mekayim zayin mitzvahs machzis hashekel bakumt men koifer nafshe, that as a reward for fulfilling the mitzvah of half a shekel, you get atonement for your soul. So why is that such a surprise that you should get from what could you give to get atonement for your soul from a half a shekel? Yes, a mitzvah gets you a tremendous amount. Is was is their pella? So what is the surprise? When a größer pella and a big surprise for Moshe Rabbeinu, he's wondering greatly. Was durch der mitzvah git men schar koifer nafshe, that through the mitzvah machzis a shekel you get the reward koifer nafshe. Why is he so surprised? Euch is nicht verstandig dem Entfer von dem Ebersten, Herr Ohu Matbeya Shalitz. Okay, so we had the question is, what is Moshe's question? The Ebersten has to show him, Zayita, what didn't he understand? What was his problem? Tisa says his problem was, how could it atone for your soul? Why is that such a big issue, the Rebbe asks. But also, what is the answer? Eins euch ist verstandig, der End von dem Ebersten Herr Matbeya Shaleish, he showed him a coin of fire. Aleph. Was is der diuk Matbeya Shaleish Davka? What is the specific type of coin that the Ebersten showed him was fire? Why does the Ebersten show him a special coin of fire? Why is this unique by Machzis HaShekel that we're saying it's a coin of fire? What about all the mitzvahs that we do? Ob der diuk fun eish is mitzadem. Why is it fire? Because whenever anything is shown from above, it comes down in a way of fire. There's no physical, and therefore it's fire. So if you're going to say that always whatever the Eberster shows is fire, so we don't have to specify that it's fire. Is mitzadem was alin yonim de lemaila zainen shel eish, that everything of above is out of fire. As we say, mishorsov eish loyhe to kayetzebay. his servants are flaming fire is similar. Und and therefore, when der Eibishter beweist a dover mesuyim is as betzuras eish, that when Hashem shows something specifically, he shows it in the shape of fire. Anything that Hashem shows is fire. As his servants are fire, whatever is doch nit nötig das zu matgish sein b'miuchadot, then it wouldn't be important to emphasize it here that the matbei is a fire. Every matbei is fire. V'bald as al inyonim d'lamayla zayin shalish, because everything above is a fire. So why would we have to tell you that this is fire? Everything from above is fire. Unoi mezol zogen as lulei der kiddush hadgosh matbei shalish. If you're going to say that without the emphasis that it was a coin of fire, Voltman, you can't meinen as the Eibishter of Bavizna Matbeya Kipshuta, that the Eibishter showed maybe a real Matbeya. Maybe if the Torah didn't say, the Chazal didn't say that showed him a coin of fire, you would think that it was actually a coin. A Matbeya Shal Kesef, let's say, a silver, Richelish, and not a fire. Al derech v'akimoises hamishkan ki mishpotei asher hore Esau behor. As the Eibishter showed him over there when he did it, showed him in the mountain. Over there, he showed him the physical, Beis Hamikdash. But so when they showed him the structure, was to not bavizun them tabnis von a mishkan gashmi, a pipshutu shel mikra. In the simple text of the Pasuk, when he was shown in the mountain, that wasn't an Eish Mishkan. It was a physical Mishkan. So, and that's why, in this case, we have to emphasize over here it wasn't physical. In this case, it was Eish. And Matbeya was from fire. So then we need an explanation on the other hand. Mitvos is anders machzis hashekel. Why is machzis hashekel different? Was by him is muchrech zu weisen amadbeya shel ish davke. That by over there, it's has to show a coin of fire davke. If the Eibishter can show things lav davke of eish, and that's why we have to emphasize here was shown Eish. So why? So why did he have to do? So this is another issue with the answer that the Eibishter gave him. Zayitnu matbeya shel Eish. Why a matbeya shel Eish? Beis the Iker. The main question is, Vu is do that enter Moshe Rabbeinu's tmiya? Where does the answer fit in? How does this answer Moshe Rabbeinu's question? How could the giving of half a shekel be an atonement for the nefesh? Through the fact that the Eibishter showed him a coin of fire. How does that explain that this is the koifer nafshay? That is the way we understand. Moshe Rabbeinu was wondering what could you give to atone for your soul? The answer is matbeya shalish. Well, these two questions that we're asking now, why does it fire and how does it answer the question? Maybe that is actually the point over here. That normally something ma yochel litim ba'ad nafshi. Normally, what could you give? But if you make it out of fire, so then fire could atone. That's the standard explanation. But the Rebbe says, in order to do that, he didn't have to show him fire. He could have told him it should be a fiery giving. Base, these two above questions in the mentor from Eibishter, that we're asking them, what does Hashem say? Why is Hashem showing him Eish, and how does this answer the question of what could you give? These are one answers the other one. The answer of der Tmiya, the answer on the question of Moshe Rabbeinu's surprise. Wie kann die Nesine von Machzis HaShekel sein Koifer Nafshi? How could the half a shekel be atonement for the soul? Is Hero HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matbeya Shalesh? The answer to that is Hashem shows him at Matbeya of fire. When I eat, that's the answer. The answer is that when I eat is Mekayim HaMitzvah, Koi Dvorei Kaish. When a Yid fulfills a mitzvah is fire. My words are like fire, the verse states. Durch amadbeya gashmi, through a physical madbeya, but he does it with fire. Balachas kama v'kama. This is just the madbeya. A mitzvah is fire, but especially when there is mekayim, the mitzvah mit chayus unis lahavus. When he fulfills the mitzvah with energy and with excitement, Eisha benafshi, with the soul of yours, the fire of your soul, Vertes an inyan shalish, then it becomes Eish. Und der Riber kann die Nesina sein Koifer nafshi, and that's why that giving can atone for your soul. That's why that's the answer to the question, because Eish can atone for. Aber ab diese wird noch starker die erste Scheile an Al-Sif Aleph. But then we have even more problem. The first question: what is milachatchila ditmiya for Moshe Rabbeinu? What is the question from Moshe Rabbeinu? Od di hasbore adurch mekayim zayin a mitzvah vert an inyan von eish, that when you do a mitzvah it becomes fire. Is aleph adrosh rogel by jeden darshan. This is a usual expounding. Every darshan, every preacher will give you this idea that it becomes fire. Beis benegayet ala mitzvahs, and this is really by all mitzvahs. Is not all machzah shekel do it. Aduchtona mitzvahs ben mamshich poil in them. The bar mitzvah in information that you extend and you impact in the bar mitzvah, you make it into fire, which basically means you make it ruchnis, you make it spiritual. The physical turns into spiritual. It was is the Tmiya from Moshe Rabbeinu. So why is Moshe Rabbeinu surprised by the meaning from Machzis HaShekel Davke, and specifically by Machzis HaShekel? How could this atone when this would be something which is the standard basically by all mitzvahs? And why is he only surprised by this mitzvah? Zoisvoi, this and addition. Oib zu lieb them, wollte gewen genug. If just for this point of the Eish part, at the Eibishter soll zogen Moshe, the Eibishter could say, he doesn't have to show this, as the Eibishter Moshe, durch der Mitzvah, werden die Matbeya werden eine von Eish, that through the Mitzvah, this becomes fire. The Adrabe, es hat gedarft sein Davke und nur durchzogen. It should have been specifically and only by saying. All the Torah was communicated, not visual, but it was communicated by verbal, by speaking, by Torah, by why is this different all of a sudden? Eibster is showing him. This is the way all of the Torah mitzvahs were given. To Moshe. Der Eibster gedarft a Reis nehmen. Why did he need to take out Beweisen to show a Matbeya Shalesh and Zogn Zayit this to give? So Bechlal, the Rebbe says, if this is the explanation, this explanation is so obvious, so Moshe shouldn't be surprised. And number two, why does the Eibster show? Why didn't he say, as the Eibster, all of Torah is not by showing, is by speaking. So why did the Eibster have to show? So derfun was davke by them inyan hat sich gefordert the pula miyuchedes from Eibster. The fact that by this idea, by Machzis HaShekel, required this special act from Hashem to beweisen Matbeya Shalesh, to show a coin of fire, und sagen Zayitnu, and to say this they shall give, is muchrach to sagen. That forces us to say, As by Machzis HaShekel is do an inyan miyuchad. This is not the stand. This is a special idea which is related to Machzis HaShekel versus Nitoba ala andere mitzvahs that is not by other mitzvahs. All the mitzvahs were communicated through speech, through other means, not by showing. This had to be through showing. It's not just the idea that it becomes Eish. For that, we don't have to show. This is a unique way to tell Moshe something specifically about Machzis HaShekel. So the Rebbe is going to explain how the mitzvah of Machzis HaShekel is such that the Eibishter was basically telling Moshe Rabbeinu that this is a logical connection. It's not a giving this Machzis HaShekel creates koifer nafshe because of a direct connection. Sometimes the reward of mitzvahs come. The Eibishter decided you do this mitzvah, you get this reward. A reward may be a lot bigger than the mitzvah, than the value of the mitzvah. The Eibishter decides that. This mitzvah, it seems that the mitzvah itself has the power. What's the power that this mitzvah, that the result, the consequence, the reward of the mitzvah is so powerful and relates directly to the mitzvah? And that is because, the Rebbe will explain, because this mitzvah itself, the physical mitzvah, becomes a spiritual. Let's look inside. Gimel. The nekudas habiyud in them, yesh loimar, the point of explaining this, we can say that inyan fuschar mitzvah can zayin of tzveifanim. The idea of reward of mitzvah can be in two ways. Aleph, the asiyas ha-mitzvah is azap ulo, was mitzat teuchen in yono brengt si schar ploinem. Sometimes the mitzvah, when you do something that because of what the idea of this mitzvah, it brings this reward, the reward matches the mitzvah. Der schar is a mesuba from pulas ha-mitzvah. The reward is a result of the act of the mitzvah. There's an association, a connection between the reward and the mitzvah, and you can see how they're connected. Base. Number two, Toichen pulas ha-mitzvah is nitshayich ha-piseichel al-kol porim schar plonim. The content, the act of the mitzvah doesn't seem to have, logically at least, you don't see the connection why this mitzvah brings that reward. Nor azoy is ritzoyne shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the Eibishter wants it. The Eibishter makes that connection. You do this mitzvah, you get that reward. So geben them dozik and schar for their kiyum, for their gewisse mitzvah, to give this specific reward for fulfilling this certain mitzvah. The geshem v'benegeya the mitzvahs atzmo. Seine voran mitzvahs was man tut sei nit mitzad hatam. Just as mitzvahs itself, some mitzvahs there is no reason why we do them. They're a chukah. Nor weil gzeiro gozarti. Shem says, I've decreed. A decree I made. Chukah chakakti. I made the statue. Azoy is oich benegeya to schar ha-mitzvahs. The same thing is, certain mitzvahs have logic or not, but the reward of the mitzvahs is also don't necessarily have logic connecting them. As ken zayin as if gewisse mitzvahs, it's possible that for certain mitzvahs, from them mishpatim, even those who are logical mitzvahs, maybe. So magen maschar godel berach mitzvah, you get a large reward. If you consider it relative to the mitzvah, you're going to get a bigger schar. In other words, it's not logically connected. This is the Eibishter's will that I have made this statue. And similarly in our case, the schar from koifer nafshe for the mitzvah from the sinners, Machzis HaShekel. The reward of koifer nafshe for the mitzvah of giving a half a shekel. The Baldas Machzis HaShekel Amadbeya Gashmis. Since Machzis HaShekel is a physical, the relationship between the reward and the physical, there's a gap. Is Käufer Nachschuruchnis. Haben kein Erech nicht zwischen sich. They don't have any relationship comparison amongst them. Bees says they are opposite from one extreme to the other. As we see when we talk about as it relates to the ultimate purpose of creation of man, l'shamish is koine, to serve Hashem. Money, by definition, the Rebbe says, is something which is on money itself on a very low level. Money, which is silver and gold, is sufficient in yonim gashim and gufa, is amongst physical matters, adovar achitacht, that is the lowest. V'mezet is b'muchash by taivus moment. You see it literally by people who have a yearning, a taiva for money. V'nidriktas can mention how low that has the ability to lower a person who has the desire for money. It can bring him down. Biz as kimlu l'rabonon. The Rabbanon have maybe means many halachas related to this. The ein odom ma'amid atzma al mamoinei. A person is not going to hold himself back when his money is in danger. He may actually, when he feels that he's losing his money, he can endanger himself. Un odom bohul al mamoinei, and a person is very, very strongly running after his money. So this is all the power of money, power of mammon. And the Rebbe says in the parentheses that that's why the money is takatif in the earth, it's deep in the ground because it's within the low, it's in the lowest. This also expresses itself in the place where silver and gold literally are. In Sugat Doimem Gufa, first of all, is the category is inanimate. Is Mekoimam Berubam majority, where is it? It's in the depth of the earth. It's lower, there's nothing lower than that, all the way to the bottom. And then after you take it out, Muzman, Muz Oich Zain, Mitzaref Lekesev, Kur Lezov, you have to refine the silver and you have to put the kiln, the gold, to remove the imperfections. So, on one hand, money is in the lower, even in this world. Uleidach is kaifer nafshe, atonement for the soul. Yeder nefesh, every soul, adover achin laila, that's something very, an elevated level. Balachas kama v'kama, and how much more so the nefesh v'nayidin was his chelek alakami mal mamish, a soul of a yid, which is a portion of godliness. So you're talking about extremes, from one extreme to the other extreme, from very lowest of the physical, being an atonement for the highest of the spiritual. So logically, these rewards don't connect to the act. So therefore, logically, it doesn't really fit as the pu'ula for nisinas mon and gashmi, that the act of giving physically money, tachlis hayirida, which is the lowest, ultimate, the lowest of the descent. So mitzatoichen inyona poilundem inyan. So the idea of money should impact the idea from Kaifa Nafshi, that this should atone for the soul from Achelik Alakami Mal Mamish, from a portion of God from above, Tachlis Ha'ilui, which is the ultimate of elevation. Und Afal Pi, als einiger Mitzvah, wird es wie alle Mitzvahs Eish, even though it is a mitzvah, so it is fire, Kinal Sibei Zuruchnis. So, physical, but every mitzvah, we said before, is really fire, is spiritual. But still is doch das nicht das Shinui, welcher ist verbunden mit Matbeya Gashmis Gufa. That change does not change the physical entity of the Matbeya, the coin. The coin remains physical, but we're saying you're bringing into fire in there. Warum der Eish kommt mit Zad der Mitzvah veruchnische bazeh. The fire does not change the coin. That's the spirituality, the meaning of the mitzvah. Aber the Matbeya Atzma, bleibt der Matbeya Gashmi. The Matbeya itself remains a physical coin. So it turns out, as the Pu'ulas HaMitzvah, the act of the mitzvah, the Nesina for Matbeya Gashmis, not the observance of the mitzvah, but the fact, the act of the mitzvah, giving a physical Matbeya, Kufa is klal nit be'erech mitzatoichen in yono. Is at all not comparison because of what it is to kennen oifton koifer nafshi, to be able to accomplish atonement for the soul. So it turns out that the accomplishment of this physical act, which has the spiritual mitzvah, but the act itself is from one extreme to the other extreme. It's like a chukah. It's like a statue, which means it doesn't make a rationalization. Und das ist gewähnt die Tmiya v'sofik from Moshe Rabbeinu. This was the surprise, Oizdala, the Rebbe says, from Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, mitzat sichle shel Moshe, seichel the Torah, because from the perspective of Moshe's intellect, which is the intellect of Torah, is oizgekumen. It came, logic told, dictated, as der schar von Käufer nafshei of the Nesina for Machzis HaShekel, that the reward, atonement for the soul for giving a half a shekel is Begeder Chukah. That's a statute that doesn't, there's no relationship really, the accomplishment to what you give. Apisechel says Adover Tomua, V'yesh Mokum L'hirachul. Logically, this is surprising, and there's something you can, question this, that logically they don't, it doesn't add up. Nor vibalda dos is retzonish lakodesh baruch hu, but this is the Eibishter's will. Chukah chakakti, the Eibishter made a decree. Is ein lachor rishus laharacharel. You have no right to question it, to challenge it, to doubt it. But from the logical perspective, it doesn't really add up. Aber liidoch. Okay, so now we can learn that way. Der Fund was der Eibishter hat nicht magdir gewen. Und nicht angerufen die Mitzvah von Machzis HaShekel. The Shem did not define, didn't refer to the Mitzvah Machzis HaShekel HaChukah, we don't call it a Chukah, is sicher as es is da hasbara in them. There must be an explanation. Und der Vater Toma Moshe Rabbeinu was wondering, Ma yuchal adam litten koifer nafshi. What is it, what can a person give atonement for his soul? Wie can sein a biur of them apisechel? How do you explain it rationally? As the nesina from a matbeya gashmis machzis shekel, by giving a physical coin which is a half a shekel, is a pu'ul of us can oifton kover nafshe. It's an act that can accomplish the kofer of his soul. If then hat ihm der Eibishter geantwortet. So the Hashem responded to him. What was Hashem's response? Der mitvos had matbei shalish. Va'amar lo zayitnu. Show the matbei shalish zayitnu. Der Eibishter hat ihm bewiesen. The Eibishter showed him as when Eden giben machzis hashekel, wer damol di matbei atzma. The Giden machzis hashekel, the matbei itself, nicht nur mitzad der Ruchnis von der Mitzvah Shabbat. Not only because of the spirituality of the mitzvah that's in it, but the matbeya itself, a matbeya shalish, the coin turns into matbeya shalish. The mele is euch apiseichel verstatement and kesher. Also logically, we can understand now that there is a connection zwischen dem Teuchen von Nisinas Machzis HaShekel, the idea of giving a half a shekel, und schar von koifer nafshe, and the reward of atonement. Now we see that the nefesh is atoned from machzis hashekel because the physical shekel turned into eish. That's a unique quality that is by Machzah Shekel. Mashenken bat tzedakah, as opposed to tzedakah, tut es oiv klal nit de madbeya. Over there, what accomplishes is not the coin that accomplishes. Over there is the idea of what happens there. Nor kemaima chazal was asvara pshuta, but it's a simple logic. It's logical. Over there, it's not surprising because that's obvious. You see that the spiritual can accomplish a reward. Atach Yesus nefesh ha'oni, you provided and vitalized the soul of the poor person, who b'nei beis and his family is scharei nafshi b'nefesh b'nei beis. So you're getting us a reward for your soul and the soul of your families. Midah connected midah. Over there is measure for measure. Over there it makes sense. But over here, it's the coin that accomplishes it. It's not the tzedakah, the reward, but here you're giving a machzis hashekel. What is the machzis hashekel? It is because from them machzis hashekel hat men machzis aber hat men gemacht die adonim lemishkan. This machzis hashekel wasn't just you're giving money to support somebody's going to live. You made the sockets for the mishkan, which means that you gave the machzis hashekel itself is, but how could you give a physical thing to make it koifer nafshi? Is we can zayin dover eze sheyia ma yocholiten afilu ha'adonim koifer nafshi. Even that you're making adonim, how could anything physical be a koifer for a nefesh? That it should make logical sense. That was what the question was. Basically, here the kesef, the machzah shekel goes for the adonim. It becomes part of the mishkan. It brings with it koifer nafshay. How could a physical, even though it's for the adonim, bring koifer nafshay? Unlike tzedakah, which achyesa nefesh brings achyesa, you're also nafshay. But how is this physical? Is this a chukar, the reward, or it makes sense? The fact that it's not a chukar means that it makes sense. How does it make sense? The Eibishter, by showing him Zayitnu, told him now this is really the matbeya itself is Eish. Explained the Rebbe Hey. They're beating them. They're mit gufa v'sero HaKadosh Baruch Hu matbeya shaleish. The fact alone that Hashem showed him this kind of power, and gesagt, Zayitnu, give this, but the Eibishter Poel given aufgemacht a chidush. Hashem accomplished and made up a novelty. Der machzis hashekel was Yidden haben gegeben damals. The machzis hashekel that the Yidden gave that time, und das wird nimshach b'mitzvahs, das wird nimshach b'mitzvahs machzis hashekel tomit kol hayomim. This continues later on, even though it was for one time Zayitnu, but this really continues for rest of the times as well. Hello, Mendel.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, Chagerat mit Neumann. I spoke with them. 1 second here.